Are you ready for some Colorado single track?
Oh.
So last year, Jake and I were on the Transamerica Trail. We'd been riding for 15 days straight. We were pretty tired, ready for a break, but we just got into Colorado. We'd ridden all the way from North Carolina through the country to Colorado on mostly flat roads, and we were ready to hit some mountains. So we decided before our rest day, we'd hit the Rainbow Trail. The section of the Rainbow Trail that we hit was about 35 miles long, and it's Colorado single track at its finest. We rode from North Carolina to Colorado. We're like 1,500 miles into the trip at this point, and we really haven't been off-road much at all. We've seen some dirt roads and gravel roads, but nothing really off-road. We're only about a mile or so in, and we run across this guy on his Kawasaki. Not sure what he's doing, but we didn't stop and check on him because we were close to the beginning. Figured he was probably okay. Not sure what happened to him. We didn't see him anymore that day. We're near the town of Salida, Colorado, and we actually started the morning off in the wrong direction from LaVale, Colorado. We went about 2 or 3 hours in the wrong direction, a little bit lost. Finally got that straightened out, and the second half of the day we decided to hit the Rainbow Trail. So the Rainbow Trail is a single track trail up in the mountains. It's about 9,000 feet elevation, and we are really wore out at this point because we've been riding 16 days straight. We're tired. We're not used to riding the motorcycle every day, all day, so really feeling that, and we're ready for a break. And our big plan for the day was to ride the Rainbow Trail, find a nice hotel in Salida, and then chill. We really did not think the Rainbow Trail would be too tough. We thought it would be pretty easy, but we get on it, and it turns out it's pretty rowdy. There's a lot of rocks and hills and creek crossings. It's proper Colorado single track.
Yeah. Woo! That was a bad place to stall.
So the Colorado single track turned out to be a little more than we bargained for, but it was a fun day. This trail has everything. It goes right through the forest, creek crossings, lots of rocks, lots of hill climbs. Got some steep areas, some really sketchy, tight trail, and we just had a blast. We really enjoyed this trail. Even though we weren't quite prepared for it, weren't sure what to expect, but once we got on it, we kind of got in the flow of things, and the first hour or so was a lot of fun. We were kind of still had some energy, we kind of upbeat, and what we didn't realize though is that this trail is about 30 miles long, and we weren't making very good time because the slow going, the rocks and things. So it was getting late in the day, and we kind of started running out of daylight, and here we are at 9,000 feet elevation, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and not sure where we're at or where we're going or where this thing comes out at, and kind of starting to physically wear down. We actually started looking for a bailout. We looked on our phones, the GPS, it showed that there were some bailouts, and we thought, well, we'll go a few more miles on this trail, then we'll bail out and hit the highway and go ahead and take a break and get to Salida. Well, turns out the bailouts weren't there. We ended up having to ride the whole entire trail to get to the access point and ride out, and that was a big task. This was kind of not something we were ready for, but we jumped in and we tackled it, and it turned out to be a lot of fun. Very difficult, but a lot of fun. We're getting through the first part of the trail. We're navigating the terrain, having a really good time. It looks like rain, so we've got our rain gear on. It's middle of July, so it's hot, and we decided finally to stop and take our rain gear off, which was a big relief because we had our full moto gear with our rain gear over top, and it was just too hot. So once we got the rain gear off, it felt a lot better. We're burning a lot of calories here, wrestling these bikes through the rocks, up and down the hills, through the creeks. starting to really feel the fatigue and just getting to that point where you're just tired. And we weren't too far into the trail before I realized this was going to be a long day. You're only making 5 or 10 miles an hour because of the terrain. We're not familiar with this terrain, so we're probably going even a little slower than normal. We're just getting started. We've got a long ways to go, and I was really pretty concerned that we might just have to stop and stay in the woods if we didn't get through this in time. But we were ready. We had our tents and our jet boil and some freeze-dried food. We could have made it overnight if we would have needed to. This trail really is beautiful. It's right in the middle of the forest at 9,000 feet elevation. It's very well maintained. The logs were cut out of it, lots of downed trees, but someone has taken really good care of this trail, and they come through evidently and cut the trees out pretty frequently because we didn't encounter any blockages, and there were a lot of downed trees, but someone had cut them out.
A little rowdy there.
Here's a tight little section. We hit these roots, and then as soon as you get over these roots, you've got a big rocky section you got to deal with, and I wasn't quite ready for it, so I got over the root and then stalled on a rock. And then Jake, well, he had to start in a pretty bad spot, as you can see, and ended up taking a bit of a fall. But it's all good. He got it back up, got it running again. It's tough to get restarted in these situations because it's steeper than it looks on the video, but it's rocky also. And once you stop and lose your momentum, it's hard to get it back. More rocks, imagine that. It's almost like we're in the Rocky Mountains. Then this little step down, I kind of went around it, and Jake decided to try it. I kind of thought it might flip him over, but he got through it pretty good. Look at those skills. Now the trail gets really tight. Gets really, really narrow, and you're on the side of a hill, and it's just about a 2 or 3 foot path cut out of the side of the hill. So you're looking down to your right, and it's straight down drop off, and to your left is a hillside, and you really, really have to watch where you're going. You do not want to go over that hill, because if your bike falls down over that hill, it's going to go for a long time, and I'm not sure how you're going to get it out of there. So a little bit sketched out by that right now. Kind of a little nervous. Not sure about this situation. Really don't want to end up over that hill. What happens up ahead? Yeah, the bike starts going over the hill. You're going to see it here in just a minute. And what happens is I just got a little offline, and the front tire went to the right, dropped off of the ledge, and I just laid the bike down to keep it from going over the hill entirely. Here it is.
Whoa.
Yeah, very graceful, huh?
All right. Yeah, don't throw your bike over the hill yet. Yes, it will. Huh. I guess you pull, I'll push. Turn your key off.
Whew.
Yeah, that was inopportune.
I mean, you just don't have any room for error here.
Nope.
And as I said, this is a lot steeper than it looks like on video. It is a straight drop off, and the front wheels all the way over the hill. And I've got this 300-pound bike with 50 or 60 pounds of gear on it, and we've got to try to wrestle this thing back up the hill. And it turned out to be a little bit of a task. So we ended up, one of us got the front wheel, one of us got the back, and the hill is so steep you can barely even stand on it, which made it even tougher. We just kind of had to wiggle the bike back up onto the trail. Jake's advice after this was, hey Dad, don't do that again. That's pretty good advice. Okay, with that crisis averted, we get back on the trail, and lo and behold, we see another rider. Where's this guy from? And he didn't even stop. We kind of thought he'd stop and talk, but he just kept on rolling. And turns out he had a buddy riding behind him. He didn't stop either, so we figured, well, at least there's 2 other people on this trail. We're not completely in the middle of nowhere. I also thought to myself we might be near the end of the trail, but I was wrong about that.
Oh, one more.
Here's rider number 2. He stops for just a second, keeps on rolling, checking to make sure we're okay. Good Samaritan. Turns out these guys had entered the trail from the access point that we left the trail on. Bear Creek Road, I believe it was called. After we saw these 2 guys, we hit this really cool section that took us right down a hill and kind of in a trench. These trails are just so amazing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
About put her in the ditch. Trying to let that guy by.
And they're so technical and demanding. They demand your full attention all the time. You really, really have to watch your lines. Your line selection is critical. You have to keep your momentum up. You got to be ready for just about anything. You might hit a creek, you might hit a tree root, you might hit a rocky ledge, a hill climb, a steep downhill. You really got to be on your toes. It's a lot of fun. This was one of the highlights of the Transamerica Trail for us.
Yeah.
To ride this Colorado single track really, really was a highlight.
Now this is adventure touring. Woo!
Here we're going to cross this nice little creek with a pretty deep middle. Jake runs into a little trouble here. Not sure what happened. I think his front wheel got caught on that rock. He just didn't have enough momentum.
Yeah.
Alright, Jake's back up. We're back on the trail. Starting to find a little flow here. Got these beautiful green forests we're rolling through. And I will say fatigue is starting to set in at this point. We're getting tired. We're 16 days into this trip. We've been riding 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day sometimes, 250 to 300 miles a day. And we're tired. Been on this single track trail for probably an hour now. And we're getting tired. We're starting to wear down pretty bad. When we get here to this spot, and just get a beautiful overlook of the mountains. Look at that. 9,000 feet elevation. Colorado Rocky Mountain High. So the bodies are starting to wear down. We're getting fatigued. We're tired, especially me. I was a little tireder than Jake was, I think. But it's a lot. It's a lot. 16 days in a row. You know, that's one thing you don't think about on a Transamerica Trail. It just wears on you, even though you're not doing this kind of riding every day. It wears you down, and you don't really have any time to recharge.
Holy cow. Looky.
So we're about an hour and a half in at this point, and we find what we think is a bailout. We looked at our phones, checked the map, and it looks like there's a road we can get on here that will take us out of here and take us to the main road and get us to Salida. We're kind of celebrating a little bit. We kind of think we've made it to the end of the Rainbow Trail, and we're gonna jump off the trail here and call it a day. We're just kind of looking around. We're taking in the views. We're doing some celebrating, some high-fiving. Yeah, we've made it out of this. We've made it to the end.
So where's this dotted road go? Dad says, I don't know, but it ain't here. Man, that was fun. I think if we had rested yesterday, I think we'd be digging this more. Give me a hang loose. Nice. Oh yeah, that's sick. That was intense. That was harder than anything I expected to hit. By quite a lot. That's the only thing that looks kind of like a road.
So after our little detour to check out the scenery, we get on the road that we think is going to take us out of here. And what do we find? A gate. It says private property, no trespassing. And there's really no way around it. It was barbed wire fence on either side. No way to get around it. So we realized at this point, the only way out of here is to stay on the trail. And we're only about halfway through the trail. So the trail's about 30 miles long, and we've covered about half of it. And it's been very, very demanding. And we are tired, wore out, kind of over it at this point. Jake's checking his phone to see what's left. And we realize it's a lot. There's a lot left. And I'm kind of at this point, I'm to the point where I'm tired, not sure I can do it.
You sound upset, Dad.
But we mustered up the strength, turned our bikes around, got back on the trail. So we're back on the trail, and surprisingly, the second half of the trail was not as technical. So it actually became a little more enjoyable for two tired riders, because the terrain was not quite as rocky. It was still challenging and still fun, but just not quite as demanding. So we kind of glad we had to do the second part of the trail. It turned out to be beautiful scenery, nice riding, and we just really, really had a good time on that second half of the trail. I think we also got our second wind, where we took that little break. We got some water, kind of recharged the batteries a little bit, and got back into it. And we ended up having a really, really good time on this second half of the trail. So if you're near Salida, Colorado, you're on your dirt bike, your lightweight touring bike, whatever, definitely recommend checking out the Rainbow Trail. But I will caution you that it's not for big adventure bikes. I would not want to try this trail on a bigger adventure bike. It would be very, very difficult. Some riders, I'm sure, could navigate it on a bigger bike, but I would not recommend it unless you're maybe at an expert level. We were on very lightweight touring bikes, the Honda 450, and I would not have wanted to be on anything bigger personally. I felt like the Honda was fine, but would not want to get any bigger. I'd really like to ride this trail without the luggage. I think that would be a lot funner. Being on the big bike, kind of loaded down with luggage, was added to the difficulty quite a bit.
I got all cross-threaded up there, and I had my front wheel on top of one. Holy cow. Had my front wheel on top of it, my engine high-centered on the rut, and my back tire down in it. That was a bummer. Holy cow, what a picture. Look at this place.
So we're kind of on the home stretch here. We know we're close to the end. We're still not exactly sure where the trail ends, but we know it's got to be close. And really started having a good time at this point. Just kind of opened up the throttle. The trail's kind of opened up a little bit, weaving in and out of these trees, stayed on the single track, had a few nice little hill climbs. Really, really nice little section of trail. At this point, my legs are dead, back's hurting, arms are tired, kind of exhausted. Then I see this gate, and I think, oh, we've got to be close. We've got to be close to the end. We almost survived it. Got to hang in there just a little bit longer. Then we come around a few more turns and we see the sign, Rainbow Trail, Trailhead. And we realized we made it. Had a little moment of jubilation, a lot of relief. We could have kept going on the trail. It continues on past this point, but we decided to hit the Bear Run Road, Bear Creek Road, and go ahead and get out of Dodge. All in all, a great day of riding. Probably one of the most epic days of riding that we've ever done. Getting lost in the first part of the day, and this being the last of our 16-day straight riding really added to the adventure. We both agreed that this really is adventure touring. So much fun and such a great adventure. So if you get a chance to check out the Rainbow Trail, highly recommend it. Colorado single track at its best.